Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Tried Before. This time, Deep Space Nine. The die is cast. Yeah, our die was cast many years ago. We're still trucking. We're deep in season 3 of Deep Space Nine. Hey, get your die cast. Become a Patreon member. Patreon.com/IABD. Get all the bonus stuff from not just It's All Been Tried Before, but the mothership. It's All Been Done Radio Hour. Get it all. Don't cost much. Go check it out at patreon.com/IBD. See what tier you want to be at, what level you want to be at. Good stuff at all of them. Just like good stuff here. This is the Die is Cast. Deep Space Nine. It's all been trekked before.
Welcome out to another episode. It's all been trekked before. Your Deep Space Nine skeleton crew is here.
This is Steven.
Jimmy-Jerome. We're here to talk about part 2. The Die is Cast. Before we get into first impression, Steven, did you realize this almost didn't have a part 2?
I did not.
So I was doing a little research on it. This is the first Star Trek 2-parter that's not titled Part 1 and Part 2. Mm-hmm. DS9 will do this a lot. They will have a lot of episodes that are interconnected without part names. In fact, I think it's the end of season 6, beginning of 7, or end of 5, beginning of 6. There's like a 7-parter, and they all have different titles. It's not, part 6 and part 7 would get kind of boring. But the reason they did this was because they wrote the first part by itself and intended it to be a one-off episode. And the end was, I don't know if you remember, but there was a throwaway line where Garrick tells Bashir, there's an icy linear chip behind my whatever, take it out and eat it. Well, the original thing was he wasn't going to make a joke about it. He was just going to say there's an icy linear chip behind my panel. Bashir takes that to Cisco, and that ends up being what gets the Tane to let them go at the end of the episode, and we never get to the fleet invasion or anything. And that's just it. And then the writers were like, this feels really like a letdown. It feels like we built something up and didn't get to do anything. Mm-hmm. And they tried to fix the ending. And we're like, we can't fix the ending. What if we did a whole second episode and really went further on all these themes? And they were already into production. So they filmed the first part by itself. And then they filmed the Mirror Universe episode because that was already written and coming next, while they were working on part 2, and then went and filmed part 2. So I think it surprises me that it was built that way. Even though part 2 is such an amp up from part 1, it does feel like disconnected in some way in that regard, but not like in a bad way. Just this was a story, and now we're ramping up and giving you another story that feels connected versus, this is part of a story, here's the other part. And I think that actually worked out in their favor, that it wasn't planned that way.
Yeah, I think you may be right. Yeah.
Also, the title of this episode, The Die is Cast. We keep going back to DS9's the most faithful to the original. Do you know what the term The Die is Cast is from?
I should know this. Balance of Terror?
No, it's not from Star Trek. But it's when I'm thinking of original, I'm thinking of Shakespeare, I'm thinking of history, I'm thinking of that type of stuff. Yeah. So apparently, famously or infamously, or maybe even not truly, somebody said to Caesar before he made a giant illegal act that started the great Roman Civil War that if you do this, the die is cast, and there's no coming back from it. Nice. And so it's a great historical reference. It's got the Shakespeare tie-in because it's Caesar, even though I don't think it was part of Shakespeare's play Julius Caesar. So that's what made me immediately go, this is a nice
callback. Yeah.
It is. And I always think of this as the beginning of the Dominion War, even though we've had some setup episodes already. I mean, we ended last season or beginning of this season with the Dominion blowing up a Galaxy-class starship. So it's not like there hasn't been a move yet. And I will say the other thing I think of as the start is the beginning of season 4, because it's such a huge episode. It relates to, I was looking at an interview from Ira Steven Behr today, because this episode is when Ira Steven Behr became an executive producer, which I think is where you see his fingerprints and why the rest of the show feels different and ramped up, because I think he influences that a lot. But there's a line in this episode late where the Romulan, who's really a founder, says, well, if we wipe out the Cardassians and the Romulans, the only real threat anymore is that Klingon Federation alliance, but they're not going to be a threat for much longer. And that plays into the season 4 plot a lot, especially the beginning of the season, but throughout season 4. And they asked Ira Steven Behr, they're like, "Were you setting up season 4 with that line?" He said, "Nah, we just threw that line in, and then I looked back at the episode and I was like, ooh, I should do something with that." Because this is very much the Dominion attack. There are 4 major powers that I think we know in the Alpha Quadrant that could stand up against the Dominion, right? The Cardassians are relatively newer on the scene, but the Romulans, Klingons, Federation have been around forever from our perspective. And you take out 2 of those 4 in this two-parter. I mean, not that those species are gone, but you take out the Tal Shiar and the Obsidian Order, that really hampers their ability to respond to things.
Yeah.
And so now we've got the Federation, the Klingons, and that is going to be front and center going into season 4 of, can the Federation, the Klingons stand up against the Dominion or not? And but I'm not going to say any more of that. Sorry, that's a lot of preamble. What are your first impressions of the Dias cast?
There's a lot going on here, as we'll get into. But yeah, and with episodes like this, and we've talked about, it ends up advancing the overall arc, but within it, there's all these moments and different elements, and we'll get obviously deeper into some of it. But it's a great Garrick episode, and I saw some people. I mean, maybe that's
last
redundant.
week was too, but this is even better, right?
Because I feel like it's very rare that there's a bad or not so great Garrick episode, and he's an engaging character, and obviously our friend Mr. Robinson's a great actor and really brings it.
And writer.
Yeah.
It's going to make you, when we finish the series, I think I told you he wrote a Star Trek novel that's Garrick post-series. When we finish the series, I'm going to make that one of my specials and make you read it because it's really good.
But like I said, I ended up kind of just watching. I mean, I have a decent amount of notes, but not a ton. But somehow we end up, and the twist for once, I feel like it was hinted at somewhere in there, but not too much, was legit. I thought it was like, okay, it's not only is it a surprise in the episode and things totally get turned around, and our boy Tane kind of eats it because he got who's zooming who. You're getting zoomed. That's what's happening. You're the fox out. Fox
I got real thoughts about Tane at the end of the episode that we'll get to. Yeah.
And I think his closer is really great too.
Yeah,
very close, but we'll get to that. So yeah,
Shakespearean, right?
Yeah. I thought it was another strong episode, and it's not the very first scene, but the second scene is Bashir talking about theater and humans just interpreting otherworld stuff, which I think
that was the first scene.
Yeah.
That was
Oh yeah, I was the Chakotay transcript includes the previously on Deep Space Nine, last time on Deep Space. So
gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was a great jump in, and highlighting the difference between O'Brien and Garrick and all that stuff. But yeah, so I like the way I'm okay with them kind of turning in on themselves here, or navel gazing, however you want to talk about it. Like, all right, we're referencing references, and so that was a great start.
I think it's no surprise from what I've already said as I was talking about behind the scenes stuff. I loved this episode. Mm-hmm. For me, this two-parter in a lot of ways is the start of the Deep Space Nine I love so much. While there are certainly episodes and elements that I feel strongly positively about before this two-parter for me is, okay, the Dominion War is on fully.
Well, so neither episode feels like, and maybe that's stupid to say because it ends up being kind of a two-parter, but it doesn't feel like, and this one a little bit at the end kind of quote unquote wraps it up, but the episode itself as it progresses doesn't feel like, okay, we got to get to this thing. It feels like, and I wouldn't even say we're doing detours. We're just like, we're going to take a look and examine this, and we're going to take a look and examine and hang out with these people. And not that Star Trek hasn't done that before, but I sometimes when you throw the kitchen sink at things, and I'll reference Facing the Enemy once again, because I did last week, sometimes it's just crazy and sometimes it's really cool. Yeah, you don't leave many stones unturned, although there is one, and I'll get to that one. At least once. I mean, that's why we all are in episodes, but we'll get to that.
Was there any point of this episode where you thought that their plan might work and really not necessarily take out the Dominion, but like cast a rough blow on them?
I thought it was gonna. I thought it was gonna work, that they would go and strike a blow, and that would. I guess their plan would work. They would start the.
They'd wipe out most of the founders, and then it would be a wounded Dominion striking back.
Yep. And then the that twist was great too. That, like, my jaw didn't drop open, but I was like, wait, what? Oh, snap. And actually, that's what I wrote, was, oh, snap.
Yeah.
And it is this thing of, and I think I talked about it in previous seasons in Star Trek 3. It's like, oh, well, now we get rid of starships at the drop of a hat, but it's still shocking when there's things like this one, and like at the end of last season of the Dominion, where they just blow up a starship, not just a little,
Galaxy class
or whatever. Yeah. It's like, oh, crap, this is for real. Yeah. So, because you just
wait to go through the whole Dominion War arc with you. It gets so dark. It gets so scary.
Because, when you go back to the TOS days, usually you saw a starship destroyed after the fact, doomsday machine, or this or that, or, whenever, people we had to all go to the planet because our ship was destroyed, or that kind of stuff. But so, it's still surprising. It's still like, oh, snap. So, yeah.
So obviously I've seen it before. I'm still getting as excited, I feel, as I did the first time. Because the first time I didn't know what was coming. And now I know. And it just felt like Deep Space Nine took the concept of Star Trek that we love and found a new, because Next Gen in a lot of ways was a retread of the original, a little more polished, in a not necessarily always good way. Like the universe was more settled. And Voyager, for all of its danger being out on the frontier, feels very much, at least at this point, in the vein of Next Gen. Whereas DS9 has taken some bold swings.
I mean, it's messy. It's like the world we live in, the galaxy we live in. Yeah.
Well, I think it's also the thing of the ship doesn't fly away at the end of the episode and go somewhere else.
Yes. Yep.
Like, you're going to stay at the station, you're going to stay at the wormhole, you're going to stay right at the front lines. The Dominion can come through at any moment.
Yeah.
Jumping to the beginning of the episode, that last time in DS9, love hearing Magel's voice, giving it to us. But it was long and extended. Like, I almost wish it had been shorter so you get a little more running time of this. We get the scene of O'Brien and Bashir eating. I was a little bit like, Bashir was too casual about Garrick and Odo being missing, because he didn't know they were missing. But also, I liked seeing that even though Bashir and O'Brien are really good friends, their relationship is very different from Bashir and Garrick's. And Bashir feels like he's trying to get a Garrickness out of O'Brien that O'Brien's not capable of giving. Right? And Bashir, like, being theater critic while O'Brien stuffs his face, was very, again, original series. I love when you bring theater into it. And I feel like Next Gen touched on theater with Beverly's things, but original series was bigger in the theater realm. I did like when they called O'Brien to ops, that he took one more bite before he left.
And in my mind, and I didn't look real close at it, but to me, Plomeek soup is always greener, because I just remember Spock throwing it against the wall in Amok Time. I feel
it's a Vulcan dish, right?
Exactly, yeah. So,
and was it Christine Chapel that made it for him?
Yes, it was. Yep.
I don't remember the color, but yeah. I think it comes back in Strange New Worlds. I think we get a little bit of.
I think you're right. I think we've seen it. I bet there's a YouTube clip of somebody trying to make it in the real world, although the ingredients probably aren't here. But
probably not.
I bet they are.
So then we get the scene from Ops where they're figuring out that this cloaked fleet is approaching. And first of all, I really liked it. I really liked we knew what was coming, but they didn't. And I liked the tension. I liked the danger. I liked that they were figuring it out before it was revealed to them. I liked the gall of the Romulans and the Cardassians are just going to decloak right before they go through, because screw them at this point. Nobody's going to stop us. We need to we need to go because you can't fire when cloaked, and just in case the enemy can see them, they better go through that wormhole decloaked. But also from the station's perspective, and we will get to this in other episodes, this whole fleet shows up on your doorstep. Cisco has to think, we're screwed. They're here to destroy us, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. And I felt that so heavily, even though I knew the fleet wasn't after them until they all passed by. You have to feel that, right?
Yeah.
I assume.
Yeah. And it kind of goes to what I said earlier. It's like, and I guess this happens a lot where, oh, they got the drop on us. They came out of nowhere. But the cloaking device always provides that. But even then, as lots of times, ships come up fast. You don't expect it. Just to back up a little bit, I may have red-green color blindness. Vulcan Plomeek soup is red, not green. So
it was red, but I couldn't. I didn't feel strongly enough to correct you.
I may have just made it green in my mind. So, and there are people that make it on this planet. So,
okay,
there's a recipe out there. I'm a big fan of the original Bird of Prey, and we've talked about the guy that made it, destroyed it, the original one. So then they used them as Klingon ships because they were cheap. I think the design in this episode's kind of grown on me. The newer Bird of Prey. I still like the old one, but that's nostalgia, and it was a cool design. But these have grown on me. So, but I do like seeing them. But
because I didn't watch the original series until after, this is the Bird of Prey I always knew from Next Gen and from we didn't really have a Romulan ship in the TOS films. So it was really Next Gen. And then when I first saw the original, I'm like, that's so dumb. They have a Earth bird drawn on the bottom of their ship because that looks like an Earth bird, not an alien bird.
Yeah.
So my first thought was that was dumb. But sorry, because I know you have and I do now think it's cool. But my first 10 years of knowing about it, I wasn't as enthused. So
well, it was Balance of Terror, so that I'm always going to look favorably.
Sure. Great episode. I don't dispute that. Yeah. If I had seen that first before the Next Gen era Bird of Prey.
Yeah.
But also, can you think of a time other than maybe Wolf 359 and Best of Both Worlds where we got to see a fleet like this?
No, not really.
And I know it was really only two styles of ships, but it was still impressive and scary.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot more and more impressive as DS9 goes on, but yeah.
This gets me a question I was going to get to later, but while we're not ship porn, but we're talking big fleets of ships. I feel like there's probably a split, but I feel like half of, and I'm thinking more of TNG and Deep Space Nine and Voyager so far, but I feel like about half the best episodes involve what I'm going to call colloquially Star Wars, where there's a lot of ship action, ships shooting ships, Balance of Terror, Yesterday's Enterprise, shows like that where it's big space battles, I guess, actually, which was the knockoff toy version of Star Wars. But there's because I think of like the Inner Light, and there are 4 lights. I can't remember the name. What's the name of that? What's the name of that episode?
Chain of Command.
Things like that, where it's like, okay, these are great episodes, but they're about this thing. And then I feel like the other 45, 50, maybe 40% are, all right, it's battle time, which, for a show that, TOS is, and TNG were supposed to be kind of about peaceful exploration. But, at the end of the day, we like and I'm not using this pejoratively. I'm not using it to reference George Lucas's world, but we like our Star Wars. We like space battles. We like them. Chekhov's phaser, Chekhov's spaceship. But so it just dawned on me. I was like, man, I really like this episode, and I started thinking of episodes I really like. And I was like, yeah, I love it when and I think that I'm going to contradict myself now because I think because I watched the Clone Wars. Now I am talking Star Wars, but that one almost for them the best episodes were the ones where there weren't Star Wars, if you know what I mean. There weren't, because for that and some of those shows, it's like for that show specifically, it was animated, so it was easier. But I felt like every episode was like choo 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 choo. It's like, okay, what's interesting is when you guys aren't doing that, because this all looks the same to me, which is what I think of the it's I shouldn't say this, but the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings movies, although I haven't seen them all, I've only seen one Lord of the Rings movies and one Hobbit. So, but I feel like, these are just not space battles, but battles. I'm like, I don't care. But although the person I'm dating is going to try and get me, I'll at least watch them. I'm not saying I won't watch
You
them.
should watch Lord of the Rings extended edition, preferably.
That's what everyone's telling me. So I think she's talked me into it. But anyway, so that was just my thought. Was like I feel like, and again, it kind of goes against my peaceful thing. But the first Star Wars was, well, I think it was awesome for a number of reasons. And again, it's not so. And even at that, that's only one facet of this episode, though. It's like like you're talking about the fleet dropping in, then we have that crazy turn at the end where pew pew, they're getting destroyed. But then and we're gonna get into it now, is all the other stuff going on.
Yeah.
Which are not the space battles. So
yeah. So jumping back near the beginning of the episode, Tane says Garrick is very skilled, and I like that when Garrick talks about his regrets or things he would want to follow up on if he gets his old position back, is he's going after Dukat. We get a little bit more information about what their beef is, but also like we don't need the details. We just know Dukat's awful.
Yeah.
So yeah, Garrick says he's going to give his list of people he wants taken out to Mila, which she does not appear again in this episode. I told you she will be back later in the series.
Yeah.
But I did not get the impression that she would be someone to give the list to. She felt like a housekeeper. But apparently she's like Tane's assistant, like secretary, whatever, as well. But Tane says he's going to kill her. And Garrick, that discussion, man, where Garrick's like, no, you shouldn't kill her because she's valuable. And Tane's like, oh, do you want me to spare her? And he's like, I'm not saying that, dude. Like, she's your housekeeper, but I think it would hurt you if you kill her. But, no skin off my back. I'm not sticking my neck out for her. That was such an interesting scene, and I liked the way it all played out.
Oh, they mentioned his eyes. I think they're talking about Garrick. But it's just made me think, whose eyes do we like more, Garrick or Gowron?
Garrick. I know Gowron's are more buggy, but I think Garrick's the better actor. Or Andrew Robinson's better actor than Robert O'Reilly. I like them both. But they both are good for the roles they're given. Garrick has a lot more. Yeah.
They're very different characters and worlds. That's what it was. So Tane was complimenting Garrick on his interrogation. You were brilliant. Afterwards, he just kept saying his eyes, and that's what made me think. Yeah, because
that was a great bit too, to know that Garrick could stare somebody down for 4 hours. Didn't have to say a word or do a thing, just stare at him for 4 hours.
I thought that was a great bit, and that's one of those for sure.
Well, could you immediately picture Garrick doing that?
Yeah. Well,
and you can picture yourself cracking if you were on the receiving end.
Yeah. And it's like battling your cat in a staring contest, but it's also another example of you never want to watch that, but them telling us about it is better. I mean, you might want to watch a couple seconds of it, but
it was so good because it rang so true. It fit with the character so well that was a tactic he used. We also find out that Garrick was exiled because Tane believed that Garrick betrayed Cardassia and Tane himself, which I definitely get the impression from the way that went down that Tane was more upset about Garrick betraying him than Cardassia. But also Garrick, a lot of times you can't believe what he says for a lot of reasons. But I do think that I trusted Garrick was telling the truth when he said, I never betrayed either. At least what he did may have been interpreted as betrayal, but in his heart, I don't think he ever betrayed Tane or Cardassia. I think that will be an ongoing plot point for Garrick as well, on both of those counts. So
yeah, I think with Garrick, you're always, and that's the whole idea, is you're always kind of guessing. But I'm with you on that one. I think that was legit.
Odo and Garrick's exchange, their first exchange, was really, really good. Just seeing into each other's souls. I don't know that it quite earns the ending, and I'm skipping to that very, very last quiet scene where Odo invites Garrick to go for breakfast, and Garrick's like, you don't eat. He's like, I know, but come to breakfast. I don't know that this episode quite earned that level between them, but I also think so much of Odo's evaluation of people is internal, and I think there was a lot in this episode that Garrick demonstrated in front of Odo, proving that he was worth more trust than Odo had given him up until now.
Yeah.
So while I'm not sure I totally buy a friendship blossoming, I do buy Odo completely reevaluating his opinion of Garrick.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And I think thinking, it's the cliche, like, you and I are not so different, my friend, or maybe not my friend, but my friend, quote unquote, my friend.
My colleague, my neighbor.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
also like it as I'm looking at Chakotay.net transcript of it. I love that we get back to the tailor thing where Garrick says, "Do you know what the sad part is, Odo? I'm a very good tailor," which I think I talked about last week. Is like all his jobs he did as a cover, and of course you would learn the job and become good at it because if you're in these orders, you got to be you don't want to you can't just halfway it. You got to fully commit.
Believe that. My only comment on that is I really wish we'd ever seen examples of that.
Right.
I don't want to see Garrick redesign Quark's clothes or his own clothes because he wore the same drab thing the entire series. I really think the costume designers should have given Garrick fabulous different outfits for every single episode. But then
fair.
I guess there's something to be said of the tailor that spends all his efforts on his creations instead of himself. If they'd only made that a plot point at some point of Garrick saying that, but I don't think he ever does.
Is he Quark's tailor? Because then I give him points for that.
I would assume he is.
Yeah. So
because they both on the station a long time.
Quark stuff, which actually is my alternate episode because we don't see Quark at all in this episode, right?
He had a scene and it was deleted. I read on Memory Alpha. I don't know what the scene was, but he had one scene that was deleted. Jake does not appear in either part of the two.
And I'll just say to the show's credit, I mean, to where we are now, like, I'm sure they filmed a scene and like, yeah, we don't need it. And I feel like there are definitely episodes where like not necessarily shoehorned in, but this is the Quark Kramer. Well, Kramer's not fair, but we got to get the guy everybody loves right now in. And they didn't. So my alternate episode is what everything Quark's doing during this episode while all this other stuff's going on. But
it's fair. I mean, if they hadn't done such a long previously on, we'd have time for a little Quark bit without taking away.
That's a good point.
My alternate episode was just, I don't necessarily want to delete anything that we saw, so maybe like a third part or some different perspective, but I would love to see a full episode of Sisko trying to prevent the war. And we'll get that in snippets over the next season or two of him doing everything he can, whether it's against orders or not, to prevent the war, and we get a bit of that here. I'm not saying we don't get it, but it would be interesting to have a whole episode here of Sisko trying to prevent the war and then save Garrick and Odo's adventures on the ship for another episode, in my opinion. But especially because Starfleet's so weird about, are you going to condone? Because so we had this new Admiral Todman, played by Leon Russum, who's best known for A Quiet Place, The Midnighters, True Grit, the 2010 True Grit, and The Big Lebowski. 122 credits, but those are some heavy-hitting credits there. Brand new Admiral. First time we've seen an Admiral wear gold instead of red, which is cool, because they've got to be Admirals and other stuff. This is his only appearance, though the actor played Chief in Command, whatever that was, in Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country. I don't remember that role.
I don't either.
But he was in Star Trek VI. But they're kind of like, so their plan was they were going to have Eddington sabotage the mission because they told Sisko not to go on the mission. He asked to go on the mission. Todman said no. Obviously, Todman and Eddington talked after that. And Todman said, hey, Eddington, if they're going to do the secret mission, you should go and you should sabotage the cloaking device so they can't do the mission. But there would have been so many more permanent sabotages that would have destroyed things. Or like Todman could have stopped this and he chose not to stop it, but he chose to inconvenience it. And that's a very odd choice. And so I really wish we could develop Todman more and learn and understand what was going on in his head and why he chose to do what he did. I mean, Edmund in this is essentially a puppet for Todman, and I was gratified to see Eddington again. I still don't trust anything he does, even less so after this episode. But, I mean, Eddington was real shady here. We hadn't seen him in a while, and they set him up so beautifully at the beginning of the season. It was just, and we will see him again. This isn't the end of Eddington. But it just, I don't know, it felt such a half measure. And then Todman reinforced at the end where he tells Sisko, don't try that again, or you're either going to get court-martialed or promoted, and you're in big trouble either way. Which I do think Sisko was very Kirk-like in this. And I think him Todman saying you're going to be court-martial promoted, both of which Kirk went through, and both of which caused him big trouble. I liked all of that. I just did not understand Todman. I didn't think we got enough of him to understand what that layer and dynamic was, which goes to my point of if we had done a full Cisco episode and had the Garrick and Odo as a separate episode, we could have done that. And it feels like you didn't quite give us the development. I think we got enough Odo and Garrick development. I was satisfied with that, but we did not get enough of the other side of the development.
Yeah.
It was written by Ron D. Moore.
Okay.
So I credit him for how good it was, because it was really good, and I think it had a lot of his fingerprints on it. Directed by David Livingston, one of our regulars. So clearly this was, as my old boss used to say when I worked in the restaurant, aces in our places moment for writer and director.
Yeah.
Like, put your strongest people in the strongest place.
And, we've talked about For All Mankind, and the kind of...
Great show. I'm fully caught up now, so...
The kind of 19 different things going on is what they do every week. And thankfully they've got 65 minutes or 7 minutes, however many minutes they want. And
yes,
because there's times where I'm like, whew, there was a lot in that 70 minutes. And Ron D. Moore is good. And I think I've said this before too about that show. And maybe we'll get to it one day, but there's always a point in the season where I'm like, all right, I think you guys are out of gas. And you're just kind of listening. It's kind of the thing I talk about in movies that I feel like most movies are just a little too long. It's like when I'm at the point where I'm like, the plane should be about to begin its initial descent into whatever airport. And so that happens on a season arc for me on For All Mankind. And then every time he freaking lands that thing and I'm like, oh, all right, I'll see you next season.
Well, Ron D. Moore is not generally writing that, and he is executive producing like 3 or 4 shows right now.
Yeah.
So I give him some slack.
His show running, yeah.
I give him some slack because he's also still heading up I think he's still heading up Outlander, or maybe he stepped back from Outlander, but he's still executive producing Outlander.
I'm not mad at him. I'm impressed because every time.
I don't think he's show running anything right now, but I think he's executive producing like 4 shows.
Okay,
so
that makes sense. Yeah.
And doing it well.
But us just talking about that, and it put in my mind like, man, he does. For All Mankind does that very well too, where it's like, man, there are 19 different things going on. How are we bringing these together? And can you remember all these characters? And they do a pretty good job for the most part. But yeah, and I also wrote Sabotage. I'm always happy. I think this was when Sabotage became. We're getting close to the time where Sabotage became part of the internet's about to explode here, and everyone's going to know Sabotage soon. But
well, Eddington admits, like, Upright just comes to the bridge and says, "Yep, this cloaking device failed because I sabotaged it."
Yeah,
but also, that's all I'm going to do. You can trust me to keep my post. And Cisco's like, "I trust him in a uniform." Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. But I guess he's that forthright about it.
So. In my reading of that was Cisco did not forgive him or trust him. Mm-hmm. Cisco was going to keep an eye on him. But also because both Eddington and Todman did things in such half measures, they couldn't quite figure out what they wanted or what their motivation was. I think Cisco was the same. Like, I'm just going to see how this plays out. I'll keep an eye on him. But he hasn't done anything to destroy us. So let's just, he hasn't betrayed us so much. I don't think Cisco made the wrong decision, and we know they don't have a brig. He'd just be in quarters that, knowing Eddington, security chief, working with an admiral, he could probably escape it if he really wanted to.
Yeah.
Better to just keep him on the bridge where you can keep an eye on him, right? Jumping back a little bit, I liked that Tane understood with his plan to attack the Founder homeworld that would not wipe out the Dominion, and he was fully expecting that they would have to fight a fleet of Jem'Hadar and was warning the Cardassians, okay, I'm doing this, and you should thank me and get on the same page, but also have a fleet ready because the Jem'Hadar are going to come pouring through that wormhole. And they mentioned, this is not the first time they mentioned it, but they mentioned that the Jem'Hadar are addicted to a substance, and that's how the Founders keep control. And until that substance runs out, the Jem'Hadar are going to be a temporary pushback, which makes a lot more sense than if you thought they'd be an ongoing concern. Yeah. We're going to hit this blow. They're going to come at us hard, but we just got to survive a month, and then we're good. Because the Jem'Hadar, we'll get into a lot more, that they are addicted to us. I don't think we've had it named yet, but it's called Ketracel White. And they're born and bred and raised to be addicted to this drug, and that they have to get on the regular basis. And if they ever don't get it, they'll just die, and that keeps them loyal. So, good setup there. Building on what I was saying about Todman, the Federation seems relatively willing to just let the Cardassians and Romulans take their best shot, which I guess means they think they have a decent chance of succeeding, because otherwise you don't want to spike the hornet's nest, right?
Right.
But also he wants the Defiant to protect Bajor, but also they're only going to send 9 Federation starships. I mean, they sent like 39 at Wolf 359 to stop the Borg, and that was 1 cube. I feel like knowing that what's about to happen could bring the whole Dominion raining down on you, you should be sending everybody. Like, hey, we got Captain Picard to the flagship coming with 60 other ships, not just 9 starships. 9 did not seem like enough.
They wanted an inciting incident, so maybe that was part of their plan.
Or maybe they were willing to lose Deep Space Nine and Bajor to see what was like. We're not ready to commit our whole fleet yet. We'll send you a fleet that can deal with a response, but not a huge response.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we're going to keep back our fleet for the huge response if that's what happens, like different layers of response.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sisko does this is going to be an all-volunteer mission, and Eddington comes. Until Eddington volunteers for sabotage, it's not clear why he comes. I feel like Sisko should have, if he'd been in more episodes, I think we could excuse, like, oh, okay, he's just volunteered like everybody else. But because he's been in so few episodes, I wanted Sisko to be suspicious of him from the beginning. I wanted Sisko with him. I wanted Eddington to get caught doing the sabotage because Sisko already had eyes on him. Right? That would have been better. I appreciated the very old school TOS movie style thing where Sisko tells Kira, are you sure you understood that message, or are you sure it's not garbled? I heard a lot of subspace garbling. That's Kirk in the movies, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And then we got some Defiant porn, not as much as I'd like, but where the camera pans around the Defiant and we got some Defiant, some cool angles.
Is it?
This red flag for me on the Cardassian Romulan plan, and I do remember watching this episode many years ago, and this was why I thought this plan would not work, and Tane should have known this plan wasn't going to work, is he mentions, there's no Jem'Hadar bases near the Founder's planet, so we're good to approach it. It's like, ding, 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 ding. You really think they leave their homeworld unprotected?
Right.
By their soldiers?
Yeah.
Really? So did that register for you of, oh crap, this is a trap? Because to me it's a trap.
It should have. It didn't. It should have.
Well, there was a lot going on, so I understand. But
yeah.
Kane making Garrick interrogate Odo, and Garrick saying, no, I have to, because you're not going to trust me if I don't. All of that, man. Good spycraft.
Yep.
Good, like, 4-dimensional chess that they're going to speak out loud so the audience can follow it.
Yeah, and, again, it's that thing, and we've talked about it a lot on Deep Space Nine and here and there, another Trek or whatever, but not ever being sure who's, like I said, who's zooming who, what's real and what's not. And that's every spy movie, every good one.
That's every time you deal with the Tal Shiar specifically for the Romulans, and every time you deal with the Cardassians at all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we're not done with either of those races in this show.
Well, and I think that's what's great at the end when we have the twist of, oh, by the way, I'm a founder. That's how this happened. Because I wasn't thinking, whoa, the founders have their own Section 31. Why wouldn't they? I mean,
and what I think is different about the founders is their Section 31 because of the Great Link. Everybody knows about their Section 31. It's not a secret organization.
Yeah.
It was just like, most of our people stay on this planet, but we send those out to deal with what we need to deal with.
Right.
So you're talking about at Lovok, played by Leland Orser, the Romulan who ends up being a founder. He wasn't in part 1, which is strange unless you know that they did not intend this to be a 2-parter. Because if you knew it was going to be a 2-parter, you'd include him in part 1, but it makes sense to have a prominent Romulan in part 2. He did guest star in a season 2 episode of Deep Space Nine where he played Guy, Gai. Don't remember that part. Different character. He will also do one episode of Voyager, different character again. He's best known for the movie Seven, Taken, The Bone Collector, and Alien Resurrection. That's Leland Orser. He's a very familiar looking face if you look at him. He's a character actor you've seen. He's got 91 credits. guarantee you would know his face a little bit.
Yeah, his first two TV credits are The Golden Girls, Cheers, this episode. Or no, not even this episode. Sanctuary was his first Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, before that, he did Gabriel's Fire was his first credit. Then Golden Girls, Empty Nest, Reasonable Doubts, Erie, Indiana in 1992, and then Cheers.
And he's married to Jean Triplehorn, who I think is... God, I'm trying to think who she was married. Was she married to Ben Stiller? No, she's only been married to Leo Norster.
They don't mention this in his best known on IMDb, but he did 61 episodes of ER as a doctor. So that should be what he's best known for.
Okay.
I think. He also more recently did 29 episodes of a show called Berlin Station, and then 8 episodes of American Gigolo, the TV series. So,
yeah.
Great actor, great role. Here, torturing Odo, my note was Odo needs lotion, the peeling, and I like that it's his outfit as well as his skin, because it's all part of him.
I was gonna ask you about that. It's all one, right?
He doesn't put on an outfit, no. It's part of his shape-shifting.
Okay, I think we've talked about that before, but I was like, I just want to clarify.
But I really like that Garak seemed very unhappy about doing it. And when he tells Odo, this isn't personal, you just have information I need, I believed it. And I liked that whole exchange.
Yeah.
Garak begs Odo during the interrogation just to lie and give him something.
Yeah.
I get why he's saying that, but also why doesn't Garak just lie and tell Tane and the Romulan that Odo said something?
So that makes me think.
I guess maybe Garak thinks Tane would see through him lying?
Or does he think that if Odo lies, that's just another layer of breaking him down or connection, or he'll reveal something even while trying to lie about it?
Yeah. I don't see. I thought it was just. I don't know. I was a little confused, but I think Garak was just so upset in the moment. I excuse it from a personal level. Odo does break and says he really wants to go home, which is the first time we've heard that, because we knew he really wanted to find his people, but now that he knows they're evil, we didn't know he still wanted to go home to them. And that's a big reveal, and that's totally authentic and true, and it's going to be an ongoing thing in the last 4 seasons as well.
So when Garak puts his head in his hands, that's legit that he's upset about this, right?
Yes, I think so.
Who would he be acting for?
That's what I'm saying. I think Garak and Odo made real connection.
Yeah.
Although I think Tane is rusty, because then Garak does come out and lie and says Odo gave him nothing, which, granted, what Odo gave him wasn't really relevant to this, but if Garak was just trying to get in Tane's good graces, I do think Garak wanted to get in Tane's good graces. I do think Garak was authentic about trying to get his position back and get back to Cardassia. And that's what's really interesting about the complexity of this episode, is I think Garak was upfront with Tane and upfront with Odo, both at the same time somehow. But I think Tane is definitely rusty to have. He's been out of the spy game for 3 years, which isn't a long time, but he was the head of the Obsidian Order for so long. And for both Garak and the Changeling, who was posing as Lovak, to get things by him, I am glad. So this was a Jem'Hadar trap. The planet's empty. 150 Jem'Hadar come through. They destroy the fleet. And Odo and Garak only escape because Vokar's a founder and gives them an out, because this is very, very important. No changeling has ever harmed another. That is very important. I cannot stress that enough. And I felt it the first time I heard that line, but that's going to come back in this series. But he doesn't get them all the way out. Like, I feel like he should have told the Jem'Hadar, hey, we're going to launch a shuttle. That's a founder. Leave him alone. He didn't. He just gave them a fighting chance, which is interesting. But Garak goes back for Tane, tries to take him with him. Tane refuses. Odo knocks Garak out, which shows you that even though Garak was interrogating, Odo saw through the true self. It was all so good. And Tane wouldn't come, which the first time I saw this episode, and for a long time after, I believe Tane died in the ship. Doesn't it feel like it? Like he's like, I screwed up. Yeah. There's no going back for me. This kind of screw up. Tane does not die in this moment. He will return in the series, which I'm thankful of. My other thing is, it would have been really nice if Tane was now the lead Cardassian that we see in this conflict. He is not. But he does come back again. He does not die in this moment. So that's all I'm going to say at the moment, but I think you're probably
Good.
relieved to learn that Paul Dooley returns as Tane.
I am, but yeah, I made that assumption, even though I guess part of me probably knew he was in future episodes, but still, to your point, it did feel that way.
I think they said, I honestly think they intended this to be his death, and it was only retroactively they decided to bring him back.
Okay.
Both because of the conversation and the way it happens here, his acting, the way it goes down, and then also the circumstances under which they bring him back. It felt to me like this was intended to be a death for him.
Yeah.
But we got Paul Dooley. Can't we find a way to use him one more time?
Yeah. Your improv sci-fi soap operas, you're never dead.
Yeah.
I love the scene. I don't know if that's coming up or right before this. Just the Garrick and Levac, when Levac's still the Romulan.
That was before this, yeah.
That exchange is fantastic. It's 6 lines and it's great.
They saved the special effects budget by not having Levac melt into a changeling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
One line Tane says that gives you the hope he might come back is he basically says, we're going to be more careful in the future, which could just mean the credit scenes in general. But that to me is like, oh, maybe he is in some part of his brain making additional plans.
Yeah. So is the device that I'm going back that Garrick uses on Odo is it just a dehumidifier?
Yeah.
Is that what makes him? Because it looks like he's just getting dehydrated, super dehydrated. So
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what it is, but yeah, it just keeps him from shapeshifting, so he can't melt back into his normal.
Okay, I get. Yeah, and he's got to change every so many hours.
Like every 16 or 18 or something, like once a day. It's essentially his sleep.
Yeah.
But this is the first time we see a Peely shapeshifter. Will not be the last time. But first time. I'm out of notes. What do you got? Anything else?
I just have a couple more. I wish Keith was here because I always, whenever I hear this phrase, I think of him, especially in he said it in a Star Trek setting, referencing Picard, something Picard said, which I think was, I just listened to him saying it. I invite you to essentially Keith's like, yeah, he's like, go ahead, F around and find out. And guess what? They effed around with the founders and these guys found out. And so I enjoyed that. Oh, and then there's
maybe a Star Trek, this would have been it, right? You get rid of the threat and you move on instead of making it another 4 seasons of war.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Garrick references, is it the very end where he references Romeo and Juliet?
Yeah. It's near the end. Julius Caesar at the beginning, Romeo and Juliet at the end. I know Julius Caesar was the title, but the first part he was referencing stuff. What was your shady character this week?
Lovac.
Of course.
Yeah.
Who else is there?
Yeah.
I mean, his name wasn't really Lovac. It was the founder pretending to be Lovac, but I'm just going to write Lovac for ease.
Yeah. And yeah.
Who's your annoyance?
Tane, even though I ended up enjoying him, yeah. I'm not sure why. And I have a question mark next to it. So I think I was struggling to come up with somebody. But that's where I landed.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I should go Eddington or Todman, and I'm going to go Eddington because he was just a patsy.
Yeah.
And then who are you having a drink with?
Garrick. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
We are pretty aligned this episode. Ranking the episode, I'm going number 1.
Yeah.
Number 1 right now is part 1.
Last week. Yeah. I think so too. Yeah. I wish I could find that Romeo and Juliet con thing. Tane says, how could this be? What has happened? And Garrick says, I'm afraid the fault, dear Tane, is not in our stars, but in ourselves.
Nice.
What? Just something I learned from Dr. Bashir, which is the end of Khan when Kirk says something Spock was trying to tell me on my birthday. And
that's why we had to have Bashir talking about theater with O'Brien at the beginning.
Yep. I go to a far better place than I've ever been before. A far better resting place. Yeah.
Star Trek's always at its best when it brings a little Shakespeare into it.
Not a play, but
I love Star Trek 6 so much, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. When they get literary, it's great. I mean, not only Rathacon, but Space Seed, all the Milton references, and in Rathacon too, for that matter.
A good point. It's not just Shakespeare; it's literary because Star Trek First Contact is our next film to cover, and it's Melville, it's Moby Dick. So
there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Next week, Star Trek Voyager Cathexis, an encounter with a peculiar nebula suddenly leaves Chakotay brain dead and unconscious. the crew is left with a mysterious but powerful force of energy on board that can take over the minds of its crew members.
Sounds intriguing.
It does. I can't wait to watch it. Until then, live long.
On your own side of the wormhole, please, and prosper.
It's All Been Done presents
Who's Got the Time?